Hey everyone, welcome to Smash and Grab Comics. This is Tyler. I'm sitting at TR's place. TR, how's it going?
Good, man. How about you?
I am doing really well. Haven't got sick, but you are healthy now?
Yeah, I ended up having to go to quarantine.
You had the Rona.
Yeah.
Shit.
And since then I waited the amount of time you're supposed to.
Yeah.
Went out and got the test, and it came back negative.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm like, oh, good, I can come back to your house. What about JP? We haven't seen him. Big news for everyone out there. JP had his baby.
Huge congratulations to JP.
Yep.
And once again, I want to make it known right now, I'm not interested in Godfather duties.
Oh, okay. Were you considered?
I don't know, but I just wanted to nip it in the bud.
Okay, I haven't got my invite or anything like that. Just in case Sarah, in case you forgot.
Yeah.
But she's probably like, you guys are dumb. Yeah. So Claire is her name. The baby.
Oh, Claire.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I hadn't heard that part yet.
I don't know what the middle name is though.
Probably my name.
Yeah.
Because what
Claire
beautiful
Tristram
girl?
or
Yeah,
Claire
Claire Tristram, and then whatever JP's last name is. It's Jones.
Whatever his name is. All right. So I really liked your idea for a show tonight. We are gonna do some X-Men talk.
And what's really cool is this is actually a story that does get covered in X-Men the Animated Series.
Yeah.
Which is part of the reason that I thought it would be really cool to read this, because as much as we've ragged on it,
Yeah.
the X-Men the Animated Series is so faithful to the comics at the very least in feel, but so much better than any movie or other series has done.
Yeah. They really pulled out those important X-Men stories. Like tonight, we're going to be talking about the Dark Phoenix.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the Phoenix saga that comes before.
Sure.
So when Jean Grey becomes known as not Ms. Marvel anymore,
Right.
but the Phoenix.
Right.
What happens?
So basically, they are out on this space mission. The X-Men are out, and as they're coming back, there is a massive solar flare.
Mm-hmm.
So massive that their ship is not going to be able to handle it on its own. Now, they have these emergency pod type things that shield them from the solar radiation, but someone has to be at the controls.
What I didn't understand when I read it is, how did Jean's power at the time of telepathy become? She essentially became a shield for the shuttle.
She had the mild telekinesis powers already.
Yeah.
But it was a lot weaker, especially compared to Phoenix.
Right.
So she was using those powers to hold the ship together and shield herself as much as possible from the radiation.
Okay.
And what ended up happening was she got the ship back, but she died.
Yeah, it was overload. I mean,
yeah. She had used her power to the fullest, and that was it.
Right. And I understand she died. And they kind of did that in X-Men 2. Where they kind of did it, and she came back in X3 as the Dark Phoenix. So they kind of skipped the Phoenix.
Yeah, they really did.
But anyway, so Dark Phoenix, we're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
So her resurrection.
What happened, it basically immediately came back.
Yeah.
And the way that she phrased it later is because of her love of the X-Men, she sacrificed herself. Because of her love of Scott, she came back.
Yeah.
But when she came back, she had changed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when she became the Phoenix.
Yep. She's got a different personality. Chris Claremont has been the writer for a long time for the X-Men for this run. And he has totally changed her from the way she was in the old days.
Right.
In the early...
She was, and they talk about it even, she was one of the weakest X-Men.
Yeah.
And the idea of that this power was always there boiling up inside her.
Yep.
That's discussed. There's a bunch of different sort of pseudo explanations.
I've read the old original X-Men run before they canceled it.
Yeah.
And I never read it as that she was the weakest one.
Me neither.
I mean, we didn't grow up during that time. So, I mean, like, I can totally tell that if it had come out, we may have felt differently, but I always thought she was just like Scott as far as her power level. You know?
And that's sort of that. I was a little surprised by that. And there was a little bit of, what should I call it? Have a seat, sweetheart.
Yeah.
Type of mentality.
It was, it was Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, and it was a sexist time. You know what I mean?
And even in this book, there is some, like, Professor X saying, I could have handled this, but she's young and she's a girl.
Yeah.
So it's going to be harder for her, type of thing.
Yeah, definitely. They definitely, like, treated her as if she wasn't powerful.
Right. And she very quickly, with the Phoenix power, gets just so much more powerful than any of the other X-Men.
Yeah. Both her telepathy and her telekinesis kind of just start going off the excuse me.
Yeah. She very quickly, her normal powers get a lot better or a lot more advanced, but she gets sort of other powers. And one of them is she can, change the molecules in her clothes to make them change into...
That's true. She does kind of shapeshift.
Yeah. And she has this phoenix form. It's the giant bird. And that's when she's just at her max power. And during this time, when she's the regular phoenix, there's a whole bunch of stuff that happens that sort of shows off her power. But the biggest one is, and I can never remember the name of the crystal, but there's this crystal that's really an intricate network that's keeping a neutron galaxy in check.
Okay.
Because the neutron galaxy would be basically unlimited power, and it would destroy our universe. So they have her as the Phoenix, even though she just powered up a Stargate and she's exhausted from that.
Right.
They're starting to show these huge reserves of power that she has. They're letting you know because she pulls the lattice work back together, this deteriorating shield of this one galaxy from our own. And, she uses her connection with the X-Men to gain more strength. She sort of sucks at their love and life force, I guess.
Yeah.
Which I felt that part was a little corny.
Yeah, definitely. I've only read the first, couple issues of the Dark Phoenix saga.
Sure.
I think it starts on like 129.
Yeah.
X-Men. So you're reading it in that, big...
The omnibus.
One omnibus that includes both sagas.
Yeah, it's like 700 pages.
Yeah. So I'm reading it on my iPad, which has been really nice because I could just, keep going. But...
And I've talked about this before, but with digital comics, that is one thing that you have to be aware of is what are you going to be reading them on?
Yeah.
Is it going to have a big enough screen? Because honestly, on a phone, it can get annoying to try and read digital comics.
Right. I have not tried it on my phone, but I feel like an iPad size has been like perfect. I mean, it's a little smaller than a comic page, but I like it.
Yeah.
I don't think I would subscribe to DC. Or did they close their digital service?
Actually, they didn't. And what they've announced recently is that they're rebranding it to be more comic centric. So it's going to be a lot more like Marvel Unlimited, because the original series are going to HBO Max, and so they're refocusing. I'm guessing they're trying to copy, because Marvel Unlimited is really well done.
Yeah, I like it. I'm on it right now.
Yeah.
As far as reading comics online, I do all mine on Marvel Unlimited, but then who do you use for everything not Marvel?
Well, for not Marvel, that's the thing, is Comixology is the big one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I am not an Amazon person, and that is an Amazon company.
Is it?
Yeah.
So what are you doing? Do you read anything on Marvel online?
This sounds weird. I have the DC universe, or the whatever it's called.
Yeah.
I have that, so I have been reading some stories that way of DC.
Mm-hmm.
But, and this is going to sound kind of crappy because most people don't have this, a lot of the digital comics I've been reading are straight from the authors.
Oh, yeah.
So like, we talked about Broken Gargoyles on one
Yep.
episode, which,
Yep.
by the way, episode 3 or issue 3 is coming out. It's so good.
So that's self-published, or
No.
who's putting it out?
That's not now I feel bad because I can't remember who's publishing it.
Oh, that's fine.
But it's Bob Sally, the guy who helped Nathan Kelly with Drexler.
Yep, he did like the first couple issues. Right?
Yes, and now Nathan Kelly is going back to write and do the art for issue 3. It's live on Kickstarter. Check our Twitter feed.
Is it out yet?
No, it's live on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So he's in the money raising phase of this. So there are some pretty cool different tiers where you can get physical copies of previous issues,
right.
as well as digital copies, that sort of thing.
Yep. So so in the Dark Phoenix saga, she just kind of starts getting like psychic transformation into the past.
Yeah.
So so what's happening there? Is that her power, or is that this the guy from the Hellfire Club?
That's so weaved throughout the entire regular Phoenix saga.
Yep.
Is the Hellfire Club and Jason something.
Yep.
Worm, Windworm,
Yeah,
something.
it's Jason. We'll just
Jason,
it is Jason, but I
who
can't-
we find out is Mastermind. That's what we end up finding out.
Yep.
So
I'm opening the comic right now.
He has established this weird link with Jean Grey mentally, and he's really screwing with her mind. Like, all of a sudden, she will think she's in the 1800s.
Yes.
And he's always there. And when it cuts to him in the Hellfire Club, he's talking about how she's mind, body, and soul. He uses that phrase too much.
Yeah. He. That's the thing about Chris Claremont. He's kind of
he hammers it into the ground.
Yeah, he really overwrites. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I was actually going to mention this. I think the average panel number for these comics is 6 per page, which is a lot. And some of those panels will have 6 paragraphs of dialogue.
Yeah. And
so it's so condensed.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of these right now. Okay, so this one in particular, I mean, it's just
that's
a lot
7
of
panels.
Narrative, that a
lot of the box narration style. And there is so much review. These are things that just aren't done as much anymore. There's so much review of what's already happened.
I know. And it's like over the top, where they like if they were speaking this in real life, you'd imagine it being, that's not what I meant, Cyclops.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's really corny.
It
the
is.
way it's written.
And for me, having it so dense, I found myself skipping parts that I saw were just a review of what had already happened.
Yeah, and everyone goes on and on about who's the guy who wrote The Watchmen?
Alan Moore.
Yeah, goes on and on about Alan Moore, but he is one of those guys that just goes nuts with writing everything out for you, and
it makes it so it's a more difficult read.
Yeah, and he's one that likes to do the script too.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh my god, I have to like focus to even read the words, let alone figure out what he's trying to say. But anyway, back to the Dark Phoenix.
Yeah. Well, and actually, going back to that, it's amazing how now you can find, like, there's that issue of Sync where there is virtually no written word in the entire thing.
You're right. It's all art. And
and it's still so good. Mm-hmm. There are very different styles, and I mean, to be able to write that way, I mean, because the overwriting thing, I can be really impressed by that, because they can have some amazing turns of phrase, that sort of thing. Right. But to be able to write just in the art, like, that is impressive.
Yeah, I agree. Or minimal writing. I mean, I don't like it all the time. I feel like that's a lazy cop out kind of thing. If you're struggling,
if you do it all the time, it feels like you can't write dialogue.
That's when I stopped reading Ice Cream Man, because it was like there was just too many issues that didn't really tell a story. It just showed you, and I felt like, okay, obviously they're behind, in
Yeah.
the writing department. So,
And I mean, for me, I really do like being able to switch from those different styles.
yeah,
But if one of the two extremes, if you get caught in that rut too much, it becomes kind of a slog for me.
yeah. When I was a kid, and I could only afford like one comic book.
Yeah.
My mom would not. My $1.25 for my Amazing Spider-Man once a month. That was my limit.
Yeah.
So, so when you would get an issue like that it was, a real letdown because I only got one comic a month, and it was like all images, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I remember being bummed out as a young teen.
Sure. And I mean, there are some things where if you break from the norm, it will feel different just in general.
Yeah.
And especially if you're a kid, that, you want kind of consistency in some things in your life.
Yeah.
And if you're not getting that, school, home, whatever.
Yeah.
Especially for that, it does screw with you a little bit. So I completely understand that.
It did.
And the disappointment of this is the only one for the month.
Yes, that's what I felt. You know what I mean? I'm like, the story didn't really advance.
You felt shortchanged.
Yeah, not much happened. Maybe it was like a Peter Parker and Black Cat thing where it was just images of them, and it's like, God damn it.
Yeah.
My allowance is gone, and I didn't really get much out of it. Now I got to wait a month. When did you start collecting comics?
My mom, when I was a kid, my mom had bought me some.
Yeah.
But there was a huge gap after that. And so I was probably in my late 20s before I started up again.
What was the drawback?
The what?
What drew you back? At that point.
Star Wars. There was one particular comic, because I have ADHD, so I'll get really hyper focused on stuff.
Right.
And one of those things was Star Wars for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And
what year was this?
I'm really bad with dates.
Okay. So, how old are you now?
36.
Okay. So this was in your late 20s?
Yeah.
So let's say like 8 years ago. So
probably
2012.
Yeah, right around there. That makes sense.
Okay. So you got into Star Wars probably with what's the new one of the
Actually, it wasn't that. It was an old one. There was one particular comic. It was because I'd been going to Rainbow for Star Wars stuff anyway, because they have a bunch of cool Star Wars stuff. Which, shout out, this episode, just like all of them, is sponsored by Rainbow Comics Cards and Collectibles, 3310 South Minnesota Avenue in Sioux Falls, and 1501 Pine Lake Road, Suite 17,
maybe
in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Possibly. Sorry, Lincoln guys.
Sorry, I had it for a time, but I forgot.
Yeah. Okay, so you didn't start collecting till you were well into your adulthood.
Yeah.
I was a serious collector in middle school.
Okay.
And then stopped in high school. Got into graphic novels a little bit in college. And then after college, a little bit of graphic novels for a few years. But I didn't collect issues and things like I did when I was in middle school.
Sure.
And then I wasn't really collecting anything. And then my first wife and I split up. And I started collecting issues. But then I kind of stopped, got more into collecting trades again.
Yeah.
Then we started this podcast, JP and I. So now I've been on issues now for 3.5 years.
Well, yeah, you have to, because we try and keep current.
I haven't, yeah. We could do a current comic book episode at any time. I mean, I don't. JP tends to read current comic books when we decide we're going to talk about current comic books, whereas I'm always reading current comic books, so I could always get you up to date on pretty much the majors, especially Marvel. DC obviously hasn't been putting out as much.
Yeah, and they also haven't been putting out stuff that I've really been enjoying.
No, I just picked up the 1027
Yep.
issue for that's
For
the,
Batman
Yeah,
Day.
that's like the 1,000th appearance of Batman, or
Yep.
or 1,000th issue since he's.
Yeah, whatever anniversary
but-
thing it was.
But it kind of bummed me out because I'm like, didn't we just do this for 1,000?
Yeah.
I mean, because that marked the 1,000th detective issue, but Batman wasn't introduced till number 27, so. I kind of felt like it was just a cheap marketing ploy. But that's one of the ones I picked up tonight when I was just at Rainbow.
Yeah, and I got it too.
Did you read it?
I haven't yet.
It's it's one of those anthology kind of things where it's just
Oh.
short stories by big name writers.
Sure.
It-
Those can be good.
I know I like them at times, but we just had that with 1,000.
Yeah.
So
And we also just got that with the Joker. They just did that with the Joker's 80th anniversary.
Yep. I don't know. I don't. Do you like those?
It really depends because when the Joker one came out, I wasn't on for that episode.
Oh,
So I didn't get to talk about it at the time, but you guys kind of hit the nail on the head where the order has to be right and you're going to have weaker stories.
yep.
But you have to make sure that
As a compilation book, it was a disappointment at the order that the stories were in.
And I remember with the Joker one, was it the first story? There was one story that should have absolutely been the last story. It was so good.
Yeah.
And it was put way too far up.
Yeah, it ended on kind of
Yeah, it really did. Which, going back to the Phoenix Saga.
Yep.
When we get into Dark Phoenix, now you know the ending already for Dark Phoenix, right?
Yeah. Spoiler alert, if you haven't read or seen any Dark Phoenix material,
Yeah.
you may want to stop listening.
So this also had a very abrupt end. Mm-hmm. It felt very Carnage-esque.
Yeah.
Because it built into this huge thing. Once the Hellfire Club takes control over Jean Grey,
Yep.
and then she ends up defeating them, like that instant she turns into Dark Phoenix.
Right.
Because so much power had
What's
been...
that Mastermind? Is that what that dude's name is?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was Mastermind who tried to sever all of her links to the X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
And doing that, he screwed up something. He shocked her back into reality, basically.
Right.
So after that happens, she gives him all this power, but he can't handle it.
Yeah.
Like his mind just snaps. And you find out the reason that he was able to invade her mind is he had this device that was made by Emma Frost.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of a weak explanation.
Yeah, I haven't got that far yet, but I was just going to bring up, like, it's really cool because the Dark Phoenix Saga introduces Kitty Pryde at the beginning
which
of
was
it.
so cool.
It's really fun to see her origin. I love that part where she's laying in bed with a headache. She kind of falls asleep, and while she's sleeping, she falls through the bedroom floor and lands in her living room.
Yeah, and all of a sudden her headache that she's been suffering from all these headaches recently, it's just gone.
Yeah. So listen to this. So at the beginning, first Emma Frost shows up at Kitty Pryde's house to recruit her, and then
The X-Men show up as she's leaving.
As she's leaving, X-Men show up, and it's weird because it's like the dad is like taking appointments that day.
Yeah.
Just from
It was
different
really
groups.
weird.
And there's no verbal talk between Emma Frost and Xavier that had Emma Frost with a thought bubble above her head,
Right.
But I thought that was kind of strange that they didn't interact. She just walked past like this was like, oh, your turn, I guess, huh?
Yeah. And, part of it, their mission was to capture the X-Men.
Yeah.
That was also a big part of... They weren't just trying to get Kitty Pryde. They wanted the X-Men, too. Mm-hmm. This was the Hellfire Club.
Yeah.
Because she was part of that. She was... Did they call her the White Queen or something?
Yeah, she's the White Queen. The Hellfire Club is set up to be like a chessboard. So they have a black king, white queen, black queen.
Okay.
Right? And then there's pawns and there's,
Sure.
bishops and there's, okay, so and it wasn't until recently in the new X-Men mythos that's being written right now that they've introduced a red queen as well. So that's
Okay.
which is Kitty Pryde.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I really like this part, because it shows Sebastian Shaw and this mastermind, I can't think of Jason, back here. And I wish I knew when the White Queen, Emma Frost's first appearance was.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know enough about old X-Men lore. When you brought up doing the Dark Phoenix, I was already in the middle of reading the original Phoenix saga, and I'm like, I guess I can jump ahead 20 issues.
Yeah, and that's what the omnibus really is it does the Phoenix saga, and then it just jumps ahead a whole bunch.
Yeah. So what I don't like about Chris Claremont is that he doesn't get to the point. It takes him forever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was in issue like 107 when you brought this up, and I jumped to 129. And it feels like I didn't miss anything.
Yeah. There are these little sort of self-contained stories that happen.
Yeah.
The thing with the crystal, they do bring it up again, but only as like, whoa, look how much power she had.
What, the crystal that Jean Grey had that gave her more power as the Phoenix?
One that she that contained the neutron galaxy.
Okay, so like that universe pocket thing.
Yeah.
So let's get on to how does this end?
Well, basically, the Dark Phoenix saga really starts. She becomes Dark Phoenix when when Mastermind's hold over her is broken.
Yeah, she,
like right away
she hits the red.
Yeah, and right away they're on their jet thing going back home.
Yep.
And she blows up the whole thing with all these X-Men in it, all of her friends.
Yep.
And she's trying to kill them.
Yeah.
And the point of that is to sever her human ties so she can go do whatever it is. She's got this crazy hunger all of a sudden, kind of like Galactus.
Yeah.
But they talk about how she has the potential to be much more powerful.
Even than that.
Yeah. And because his hunger, he devours planets.
Mm-hmm.
We see quickly her hunger after she just beats the shit out of the X-Men.
Yeah.
Like, she was savage with them.
Did you think... Okay, did you watch the Dark Phoenix movie?
I did. I don't remember, honestly. It was very forgettable to me.
Was it? Because I haven't watched it. They alluded to it in the original X-Men movies in X2 and then kind of in X3.
Yeah.
In X-Men 2, she used up all her power to protect the plane, and she basically disintegrated herself.
Right.
And then in X-Men 3, there's this huge power surge, and I guess if you go too close to it, it sucks you in. So I feel like that's what's kind of happening like right now, where she's just got this...
Yeah. Well, and what happens, you might not have gotten here yet.
No,
so
I haven't.
Sorry, I'm going to spoil some stuff.
No, do it. Tell me.
So what happens is she opens a Stargate completely by herself. Mm-hmm. After she defeats the X-Men. She just goes out into space, opens a Stargate, and jumps through. There are a lot of Star Trek references, by the way.
Okay.
Did you notice that?
Chris Claremont must be a Star Trek fan.
Because there was a lot of talk of, they even said, that takes care of one nacelle when there's a fight between ships, which is a Star Trek thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, random.
Well, this was late.
Thought.
No, this was like 1980, I think.
Late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever it was.
Yeah. Okay. So
she goes to a star. Mm-hmm. It's a star a lot like ours, like the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an inhabited planet in that solar system.
Yeah.
But she goes into the middle of the star and triggers it to be supernova.
Yep.
And she uses that to get all this more power. Well, doing that, a sun going supernova destroys the planets around it.
Yep.
So she killed like 5 billion people.
Yep.
And it just happened that... now, how would you pronounce the name? Lilandra?
Yeah.
Okay. She's the empress of a huge empire out in space, similar to the Skrulls and the Kree.
Yep.
And she's also Professor X's lady love.
Lady friend.
Oh, yeah.
So what's weird to me is, okay, Professor X went to go visit Moira way back in the original Phoenix Saga,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't come back till at the beginning of the Dark Phoenix Saga.
Right.
I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, and
he gave them like no explanation.
Right.
And like immediately he was just like all over Scott about how bad of a job he's been doing.
Yeah.
He was being such a douche. I was like, fucking A.
the second he gets back, he was just like shitting on Scott for his leadership.
Yeah, and it was like because Scott is trying to tell him that the X-Men need
These
to
new
be
X-Men are different.
they need to be a team of individuals.
Yeah.
And then
which is so different from what he did with the original team. Like it was all about no, you're a team.
yeah,
The
so
original founding
the
kids.
original kids were you use your power so that you can do your power, and that will be so I can use my power.
Yeah.
And we all come together in this massive booby trap, right? The way they kind of one depends upon the other's power.
Yeah. And one of the big things Professor X was upset with Wolverine.
I mean, they would rehearse this stuff is what I'm trying to
Yeah.
get at. It was like
The Danger Room was like a dance hall where they kept running the same
pattern,
drills
the same
over
drills.
and over.
Yeah, and so it was choreographed and it worked, but it worked for them in the story. But us as readers, it didn't work. And by like issue 60, they quit writing new stories. And for 30 years, no, I'm just kidding. 30 issues, it was reruns of the old issues. And then now with Chris Claremont with the Wolverine story, the Giant Size X-Men, he brought it all back, which leads us, now I feel like this is the epic of all, right? This is the pinnacle of all that.
Yeah.
Now we're at the Dark Phoenix Saga. This is where the X-Men go into the history books, which makes it so iconic today.
Right. And this is a story. I mean, he planted the seeds so far in advance before the actual Dark Phoenix payoff of this.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, it's because the omnibus for this, it's 700 pages.
Do you feel like the payoff he wrote just along the way to make it fit with the backstory or with the story he's already written?
Yeah, I don't think this was a big planned out thing.
No, I don't either.
Yeah,
I think
it was underutilized if it was.
Yeah, because I think the Phoenix Saga was such a soft open, and I think he was like a little, I should have made her more powerful. This isn't quite what I wanted.
Yeah.
And then so that's why we have the Dark Phoenix Saga.
And that's when she goes into ridiculously overpowered territory.
I mean, yeah, she's very overpowered as the Phoenix, but I don't think in any of those stories he really utilized that to make cool stories.
No. I mean, the thing that we keep talking about with the Neutron Galaxy, that was the biggest thing before this that she had done.
Right.
And she did that. It saved the universe.
Yep.
But after that, it was really underutilizing her.
Right.
And when she's Phoenix, her uniform outfit, whatever, is green with the gold accents.
Yeah.
And when she becomes Dark Phoenix, it's red with the gold accents.
Yep.
So it's, I don't know. And I said this before, but it felt too much with some of the reviewing what had already been done.
Right.
Like literally in the last issue, spending more than one page covering that.
Yeah.
It felt like he was, when a kid's writing a book report and they don't have anything to say, so they ramble on a lot.
Yeah.
It felt like that to me.
Towards the end of it.
Yeah.
So it was like you brought up earlier, our impression of the Maximum Carnage build up to nothing.
Yes. There was this, and with so much time spent reviewing stuff. I mean, I'm serious. There are issues where it's more than one page of reviewing what happened last issue.
Well, yeah, Chris Claremont you're talking about X-Men, right?
Yeah.
Chris Claremont is notorious for that. And I mean, coming into it back in the day, kids could come into X-Men at any point because they did get a wrap up, all was a nice recap for them every issue. So you could jump in and jump out of the series and tell what was going on. And then in the early 2000s, writers stopped doing that, and that really made it there was a huge dip in comic books.
Yeah.
And then while it comes off as cheesy and it almost like too much, I kind of liked it when I was younger.
Sure. And I mean, sometimes what you'll see now is on the first page, they will have like a paragraph or two.
Yeah.
Quick outlining, what happened the last couple issues.
Yeah.
I definitely prefer that because for me, it kept killing the flow.
Yeah.
And I know these were not written to be read one right after the other.
Yeah.
So that does make a big difference. Whereas now it's sort of getting a lot more anyway anchored toward that trade paperback where people are, or because what I do a lot of times with a story I really want to read, I will not read any of it until the last issue of it comes out, and then what we'd call binging, I guess, for TV.
Why? I mean, so for you,
I'm impatient.
Yeah.
So I will get upset when it's like it's going to be a month before I can get just the next issue out of the 12 that I want.
Yeah.
So that's why I wait and save it. Although that ends up sometimes leading to it just doesn't get read, which is I'm not proud of.
I am just like that. I have a stack of comic books now, probably. Yeah. I mean, yay tall and sorry. And I going, oh my God, I need to catch up because, a lot has probably transpired in all those issues, and I'm missing it. But
and that is one of the things that's kind of different is the stories now are bigger. Because when you're reading the Phoenix Saga, it is a bunch of little stories with one kind of thread loosely throughout them that then pays off at the end. And then that one, there's another thread going for these other little stories. Now things have gotten so big that the stories will last so much longer. And I think comics have geared too much toward huge events.
Yeah, definitely. I was just, like I said, at the comic store, and I picked up the Marvel's Snapshot, X-Men. And it's really great because I had heard a review of it where it's just a nice Scott Summers story. And, it's a continuity, but yet, whether the events makes no difference on Scott Summers' story.
Sure.
Right? It's just,
it's a singular book.
It's a snapshot.
Standalone.
Yeah, it's a snapshot into a character. Those kind of stories are fun. You know what I mean? Where you don't have to worry about the events that came before it.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about where does this fit in the story? Because it starts off with young Scott in the orphanage, and kind of goes into him meeting the Fantastic Four, because back then, and I liked this where it tied into other Marvel stories where they, all the boys Scott's age at the orphanage are wearing their Fantastic Four T-shirts.
Yeah.
Like they're fans. Like they know who they are.
Yeah.
And then so Scott grows up, he has a conversation with Reed when he's young, and then he grows up, and then him and Reed are compatriots now.
Sure.
And so it was a nice tie into other Marvel events that would have been happening at the time when Scott was young.
Sure.
I thought that was really nice. They were establishing a timeline.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Of different events.
Yeah. Now, one thing, sorry, that just triggered something in my mind.
Sure.
I wanted to ask you, have you read Avengers versus X-Men?
No, but it's on my list to read.
Because they go into the Phoenix Saga again.
Do they?
They talk about that again, and it's the Phoenix that triggers this whole series of events that puts Avengers against X-Men.
Yep.
And it is really well done. I really liked it.
Who wrote it?
Shit.
Who wrote shit? Here, I'll look it up.
I'm terrible with names no matter what. People that I definitely know on a personal level, I will forget their names pretty easily.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Was it Avengers versus X-Men or X-Men versus Avengers?
Avengers versus X-Men, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I think it was AVX.
So, let's see. How, I just put in AVX. Wow, it's not even in the top 20. Oh, here. No, suggested AVX Marvel. Hold on.
Avengers versus X-Men.
You'll probably beat me. I'm on my iPad for those that are on
According to Wikipedia, Avengers vs. X-Men is a 2012
Here we go.
crossover event
Artists.
featured in comic books.
Let me just click on this. Sorry, this is going to be super fun for everyone to read.
Yep.
Okay, here
Or
we go.
listen to.
Storyline by Jason Aaron, Brian Michael Bendis, Ed Brubaker, Jonathan Hickman, and Mac Fraction, with a rotating team of artists including John Romita Jr., Oliver, I can't say that, Coipel, Coipel, and Aberton Kubert.
So, it was 2012?
Yeah, this was a recent thing. It was.
I thought it was older.
No, I did too, actually. But I saw a panel on Twitter. Gail Simone posted a couple panels asking what it was from, and someone said, and those panels intrigued me so much that I went and just had to. Actually, Marvel Unlimited.
Yeah. So what is it that you don't like about the current X-Men run with Jonathan Hickman?
I'm not sure how to put it. They blew up too much. Because there was this narrow thing, and then all of a sudden there was all this stuff.
What narrow thing?
There was, when they did House of X and Powers of X.
Yes.
There was just the one line, the one run.
Yeah.
Like that was the one title.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden it feels like there's like 8, 9 titles.
Oh, the titles. Okay. I thought you meant in the story.
No.
Yeah. You're right.
I got to a point where
they're
I was
telling
just like,
too many
which
stories.
one do I don't know where to follow.
There's a key in the back of each issue that tells you the reading order.
Okay.
So that's helpful. But if you pick up Excalibur and you're also reading X-Force and wait, I thought she was here, you might have just read them out of order.
Yeah.
So that's been really annoying that there's so many titles and maybe shipping was late one week, which then puts that story behind another one that uses that same character, so it messes up.
And with the whole COVID thing, it's been crazy.
Now, I have been one that originally just was reading X-Men, and that was it. And then when we went into COVID and Diamond decided to stop their shipping, and then so I then started to catch up on all the X-Men titles, which has been really fun. They're really good stories. Excalibur was kind of it's literally
a little cheesy.
It's King
if
Arthur.
I remember right.
It's another dimension where they're still in like Arthurian times.
Sure.
And it's like I don't know. And Captain Britain's involved, who is now a different character, and who was Psylocke at one point. Betsy Braddock.
And actually bringing in some of the current events with Empire, they talked about the blue spot on the moon. Yeah. And that's actually because the end of Dark Phoenix takes place there.
Because, in Hickman's run right now, the Summers family and Wolverine live on the moon.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool because they use the Krakoan flowers to travel.
Yeah.
I really like this as a plot device to tell all these stories. I mean, because the Hellfire Club has turned it into a black market business for this drug that can be made from it.
Right.
They're selling it to Americans or the rest of the world, the non-mutants. They're selling it to them because it can cure all kinds of mental diseases and everything like that.
Yeah.
For mutants themselves, it can do all kinds of stuff. And it feels like while we get all these great stories and you can go all kinds of different directions with it, like the Hellfire Club is dirty and underhanded. Sebastian Shaw had killed Kitty Pryde. And right now, I don't know if you know this, but they have a way of bringing mutants back.
Yes.
So that if they die, they die, it's no big deal. And so, but after Shaw killed Kitty Pryde, they were unable to bring her back. And so
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So in this most recent issues of Marauders, Kitty Pryde is brought back, but I haven't read it yet.
Sure.
And the cover has her knuckle tattoos have been changed to Kill Shaw, which I really like.
That's pretty cool.
Okay, back to Dark Phoenix. I
Sure.
could talk X-Men like forever.
Yeah, it's a series
But what I was going to say to you is you can get the X-Men series. You can get each of them in the thing in two different chronologies, right? You can just read the X-Men trades.
Mm-hmm.
You can read just the Excalibur trades. You can read just the X-Force, or you can get the ones that puts it all together. Volume 1,
Sure.
Volume 2.
Yep.
You know, for someone like you that might want to, but you just like it became too much. Reading it in the trades that way, where it's already put in the right order, I think would be
that
pretty cool for those that
want
want to read it. That for those that want to read it, but are like, well, God, it's so convoluted now with how many titles that are out.
Yeah.
And
it does. I think for my taste, they just too quickly branched out into too many titles.
Mm-hmm.
If they had slowed that down a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and that was pre-COVID, so
Yep.
I remember talking about that at the time of just that sort of like, I mean, I need a break.
Yeah, and that was the thing that they were claiming they were going to like make everything concise in the X-Men world, and Hickman was going to relaunch the X-Men and bring it all back together, but through House of X and Powers of X or Powers of 10, we just didn't feel like that was going to happen. It was that those stories were leading all these different directions.
Yeah.
And then right away at the beginning, they launched 6 titles. And I said to JP, I'm like, this isn't making everything concise and bringing it back together.
No.
When you do a relaunch, like that's like hard,
Yeah, they did a
hard-ass
hard reset on the universe.
Yep. And they explained everything so scientifically in
Yeah.
Powers of X House.
I read them together.
I did too.
So I don't differentiate the storylines in them.
No,
because
that bothered the crap out of me. I'm like, JP, why are they doing a thing, that intro thing? And I said, there's no point in them jumping back and forth because there are times where you needed to read both of them. They weren't independent of each other.
right, yeah, they were interconnected incredibly.
Yeah.
And I mean they would show you. I think in the back they had the reading order for it, like
Yeah.
you were saying with these ones, where it's
Yeah.
first read House of X number 1, Powers of X number 1, House of X number.
Yeah, but what bothered me about that, it wasn't
1 1 2 2 3
yeah,
3.
exactly. It was 1 1 2 2 3 4 3.
Yeah,
3 4.
they did it in a weird way.
Yeah, it wasn't like a nice, which is a little maddening when you think about it.
Yeah.
You were like, God damn it! And
It's-
same with these X-Men books. Like they're not in the right order. And this is what bothers me about the series. And I'd stop reading if it wasn't so damn good. Like,
Okay.
literally, I love the stories. And there's some duds. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Well,
but,
yeah.
But it's such a huge world now. The X-Men universe within the Marvel, I mean, it feels as big as the Marvel universe as a whole, but yet really it's a pocket universe within the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
Right? And right now the X-Men are not involved with anybody outside of the X-Men. I mean,
Right.
except for the Fantastic Four. But it's not like we have Spider-Man running into Wolverine anywhere.
No.
And that's kind of cool. They're going into this Ten of Swords storyline.
Yeah.
Okay, so nobody knows what it's pronounced. X of Swords. It's based on tarot cards. This thing. So it is the Ten of Swords, even though it's an X.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That reminds me. I keep meaning to see that movie Malcolm X, but I haven't seen the first 9. Your jokes are dumb.
Okay, but no, I just really like that they're got plans, because in this this Ten of Swords, the X-Men are going to be interacting with the outside Marvel world.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to that, but I am sick of the hokey titling, right? So we had
Yeah.
Powers of 10, we had House of X, we have X of Swords.
Yeah.
It's like, we got it. Xavier, X-Men,
Yeah.
X-Force, right?
X-Force, X-Factor, Excalibur.
Yeah, and while, the X-Men is the main team, I liked it that the New Mutants were the New Mutants and they weren't X something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know.
And yeah. There are too many of the X things.
Yeah.
It just becomes
The X-Men
it convolutes the idea of the X-Men to me.
kind of. The X-Men, but when you really get into it and you realize that the X-Men are like the Navy SEALs, right?
Yeah.
And the other guys are just, you're not an X-Men. And they're like, okay, hey, all you losers, let's form a team of our own. You know,
Yeah.
we'll be the New Mutants because we're not ready to be X-Men, you know?
Sure.
I kind of like that a little bit, but, you know, right now, X-Force is kind of like the reconnaissance team. So if you are on X-Force... So I do like that Hickman is having those things written in a way that makes sense why they would name them that.
Sure.
You know, X Factor now, their job is to figure out anyone that wants to be brought back to life on Krakoa, and you don't have their body. There's a team now, they're called X Factor, to hunt down the mystery, right?
Oh, okay.
Hunt down how they were killed. They have to make sure they are dead, because there are mutants that haven't resurfaced yet. Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
they just have to make sure that they really are dead, and then Hickman is trying to give these titles names.
Specific roles.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, they're not just like a group of mutants just hanging out one day.
Yeah.
They each have, you know, the X-Men team does this, X-Force team does that.
Sure.
But it's still a hierarchy. I mean,
Yeah.
to be on the X-Men is the goal.
And I think DC, because they've done similar things, I think this is one of those things that they do better, differentiating stuff. Because there's Justice League Odyssey, and Justice League Dark right now. Mm-hmm. But they're very different. Odyssey is your space stuff.
Yep.
Dark is your magic stuff.
Yep.
And they make it really clear.
We should talk about Justice League Dark, the animated movie, on one of these. Episodes.
We'll have to do that. We have an idea for the next episode, I think. Unless you'd rather do that. We'll talk about that off the air.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Back to Dark Phoenix.
No, I'll tell you what. I do want to do it. We'll say it right now. We're going to be talking about Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky's Sex Criminals next week on this show. Hopefully, JP will be able to join us.
Yeah, we're hoping. And if you haven't read that series, by the way, like, run grab it.
Yeah.
Because it is
I'm gonna read
worthy.
TR gave me a copy tonight and said, you should read this if you haven't. And I have not. It's been one of those things that was on my radar, but nothing that I was like running to go out and get. Do you know what I mean? But since you've got a copy, I'm like, yeah, cool. You know?
Yeah. I had a spare copy, so I'm just giving that to you, by the way.
Yeah, sweet. So let's Dark Phoenix. Let's pull ourselves back.
Yeah.
We're kind of rambling tonight, but that's all right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Dark Phoenix. So let's get into how it ends.
Right. So after, from a while ago, if you remember, she blew up that star. She made it go supernova.
Yep.
And destroyed 5 billion people with it.
Yeah.
And so Lilandra's empire, they had a ship there that it was their most advanced fighter ship that had just been, released. And they fire on her because that was part of their empire.
Yeah. And so they took that Dark Phoenix blowing up that star as an act of war that she's attacking them because it blew up their ship in the process?
No, it didn't blow up their ship. But they knew that it had destroyed that inhabited planet that was part of their empire.
Okay.
So for those 5 billion lives, they went after Dark Phoenix.
Right.
Who had just fed.
Yeah.
So she destroyed them. I mean, she basically toyed with them by making it last as long as she did.
Yeah.
And then she completely destroyed them, left no trace of them.
Nice.
So now the Empire needs to get Dark Phoenix, and they also see this power being so big as another threat to the universe. So even though Phoenix just helped them with their huge crisis in the Neutron Galaxy, that was almost unleashed and destroyed our universe, even though that was we were saved by Phoenix, they recognize Dark Phoenix is so much more evil than Phoenix was good.
Yeah, she lost her consciousness. And
Yeah,
and she went from using her new acquired powers as Phoenix to aid the X-Men, and to doing everything. She went from selfless to selfish.
Yeah.
You know.
Basically, all of her worst impulses were amplified because there was so much power and so much power potential.
Yeah.
And they were talking about, she had the power to become a god.
Right.
She, at the moment, had finite power, but she wasn't far from getting infinite power.
Right.
And there are scenes where she asks Wolverine to kill her, just like in X3, but he can't. Unlike X3, he can't do it.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is they're all transported after Dark Phoenix is defeated by Professor X. He shows up at the last possible second after she shows back up on Earth.
Does he continue throughout the story to just be on Scott's case? Okay.
No, that goes away. Fortunately, because I didn't like that.
It was a weird. It was just so weird that Scott was just saying, "Hey, now that you're back, maybe we don't need to run these types of drills."
Yeah.
Because yada yada.
Yeah, and he was trying to explain that Wolverine had been trained to fight and had been fighting for so long. He knows what he's doing, and this is insulting to him.
Yeah, I mean that when they're in the moment of battle, they know what to do, and they don't need rehearsed.
Maneuver 7 X-Men.
Yeah, right. And they don't need that, and because this group is completely different than the old group.
Yeah, the original X-Men.
I think Scott's the only original one.
Scott and Jean.
Yeah, which Jean right now, like we were saying, is not really going to be a member much during the Dark Phoenix saga, right?
Because she kicks. I mean, when she becomes Dark Phoenix, she kicks the shit out of the X-Men.
Yeah. So they didn't die when she just.
No, but
she blew up their ship, right?
She blew up their ship
with them on it.
Yeah, but the X-Men have had so many ships explode. I mean, they even had Nightcrawler say, "Not another ship blown up." Because, I mean, that happened when they changed to all new, all different X-Men. The Blackbird blows up pretty quickly.
Yeah. That's true, they did.
Yeah. They lose a lot of ships.
So I'm in the process right now of making my way through everything X-Men. Mm-hmm. So like I said, up to this point, it's been pretty easy because it's been one series.
Yeah.
So pretty soon, though, I got to figure out where it starts branching into multiple series.
Yeah. Because even this in the omnibus that I have, there is all new, all different for a lot, but there's also Uncanny. So it splits from all new, all different X-Men and Uncanny X-Men. Those are two different titles.
Really?
Yep.
And is it in the same numbering, or no? So it did jump. It just made. I see. Never mind. Two different series. So I have to read those. I just want to kind of devour everything about it, and just
I know that feeling.
I got to watch the movie, the Dark Phoenix movie.
Okay.
It was forgettable.
It really was. I know I've seen it, and that's all I can tell you about it. I can tell you that in general, the actors that are in it I like, but the movie was very similar to X3. Too similar to X3.
Really? But it done differently though, right? Because supposedly with Days of Future Past was their their reboot.
That was their way of resetting, getting rid of those first 3 X-Men movies.
Yeah.
And getting rid of the Wolverine origin with that Deadpool, which is how they could hypothetically pull Deadpool in.
Yeah, because that Deadpool couldn't talk.
Right. And also he died.
That's true. And he was a victim of Weapon X.
Yeah.
But Ryan Reynolds, I guess he was Deadpool in both of them. But,
he was.
Ryan Reynolds in the Deadpool movies, he wasn't, was he?
No.
He didn't be...
It was like a group of people that basically would, if you can be turned into a mutant, they do it through all these torturous methods, and then they sell you as a slave, basically.
Yeah, and he was a victim of that.
Yeah. As opposed to the Weapon X. Yeah, in the movies, the Deadpool movies, that's what it was. in the Wolverine origin movie.
Yeah, that was Weapon X.
It was Weapon X. And
Right.
he had the swords that came out of his
hands.
Yeah.
That Wolverine movie though, I did like it.
It had its moments, but to me there were some parts that were just so over the top dumb.
Yeah. One, Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
In it, I thought that was. I don't know. They were. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to explain it. But did you ever? Because this was before the reboot. Okay.
Right.
Where, why Sabretooth was one way in
Yeah.
Wolverine, but yet he was a different way in X-Men.
Yeah.
The original X-Men.
And
Because Sabretooth could not talk or barely spoke in the original X-Men movie.
right.
But then Sabretooth in the Wolverine movie was his brother. He was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
they changed actors. I mean, they were anyway, back to Phoenix cuz we keep getting off it out.
okay, yeah, back to the Phoenix.
So, Lilandra's empire then Dark Phoenix then comes back to Earth.
Right.
She goes to Jean's parents' home, and then the X-Men show up, try to defeat her with this device that Beast made.
Mm-hmm.
It almost works.
Yeah.
And then she is about to kick the shit out of him when Professor X shows up and does something that turns her back into Jean Grey. They don't really explain it. But at that moment, basically, they're teleported all of a sudden. And they're taken to Lilandra's empire.
Okay.
And they're there, you know, hand over the Phoenix, we're going to execute her because she can't be trusted to stay alive. And Professor X demands a trial by combat that he knows because Lilandra is his lady love and he spent time with her.
Yeah.
He knows that there's a certain challenge he can issue that can't be denied.
Okay.
So he goes with that.
According to their customs.
Right.
Yeah.
So he does that, and they set it up so the X-Men are going to lose.
Yeah.
And the X-Men are teleported, whatever, to the blue spot on the moon. And that's where this huge fight is to take place. And basically they're fighting. Jean is Jean again. And then all of a sudden the fight becomes huge and she turns into Phoenix again.
Okay.
And then she turns into Dark Phoenix
when
again.
Okay, so that's what I was going to ask you. When Xavier fixed her mind and she was able to be Jean, she was Jean, like not Phoenix
right.
Jean.
She was Jean again.
Okay.
But then when the situation called for her to use so much power, she turned into the Phoenix again.
Yeah.
And then when it called her, that hunger and all that power called to her again, she became Dark Phoenix again.
Yeah.
And basically explained, as long as I'm alive, this cycle is not going to stop.
Yeah.
So then she sort of comes back to being Jean and pleads with Scott to kill her.
Yep.
And essentially, he didn't realize she'd set up a trap for herself.
Yep.
There were weapons there that could kill her if
Scott
drained herself
Yep.
of energy enough. And that's what happened. She had used so much energy that she was vulnerable, and she got killed by one of the people that she was fighting.
Yeah.
And the saga pretty much ends there. Cyclops goes out on his own, and there's a huge issue that just goes over their life story together, basically.
Yep.
Which I just couldn't do because I've read those issues before.
Yeah.
And it was in the same overwritten style.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. Like, this is the saga that spawned, everything from Apocalypse. We find out made Madeline Pryor, who
Right.
is Jean Grey's clone. Scott and her have Cable. So there's this whole other story that goes on while Jean's dead, quote unquote dead.
Yep.
And then I just feel like now reading it, how in the world I'm bored. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't want to be a jerk, but
so I'm reading it. Well, how in the world did this story become the catalyst that it has?
because it was different.
Yeah. Because
I think
because I'm reading it and I'm like you said, everything is over explained. Everything is slow. Everything
and
is
repetitive.
Yeah.
There's so much, which I know I've complained about too much. But
it's Chris Claremont. You know,
yeah,
and I'm not a huge fan of his.
yeah. I think the idea of the story is what had it go. Like for me, Star Wars Episode 3,
Yeah.
the movie,
Yeah.
didn't much care for it.
I-
I like the fights. I like the lightsaber fights. But the novelization, I loved.
Yeah.
And it's the
wasn't
story
it like-
behind it.
Wasn't it like Ari Salvador that wrote it too?
Yeah.
Because he's been a big Star Wars writer.
Yep.
Um,
He's done a lot of really cool stuff. Of course, I don't know how much of his stuff now is in what they call Legends, which basically means doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But the author we're talking about writes for the Driz.
Yeah, Drizzt.
Duarden in
The fantasy stuff.
the Forgotten Realms fantasy book series.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he also writes Star Wars books, and oftentimes he's gotten to write the movie version.
Yep.
Of the
And I will say this: if you are a Star Wars fan,
Yeah.
and you were meh about Episode 3,
Yeah.
the novelization. My best example of this is the fight scenes were better somehow.
Yeah.
I loved the fight scenes in Episode 3.
yeah
But in the book, they're done better.
yeah.
It's
I
hard to
just-
describe, but
I just wish that we didn't have 90% of episode 2 and episode 3 was stretched over a movie and a half.
yeah.
Because I
That would
felt
have been
like
better.
I felt like we went from Anakin, who was just a hotshot with an attitude, and he had a girlfriend on the side, to by the end of the movie, how quickly he flipped.
Yeah.
It didn't
We
feel
didn't
believable.
see Sidious planting the seeds as much as we should have.
It felt so rushed, right?
Yeah.
It should have been a much bigger build or much longer build up
Yeah.
to be believable that
It did
Sidious.
just feel so sudden
Yeah.
when he flipped.
yeah. Anyway, so if you liked reading the X-Men Dark Phoenix saga, go watch the Dark Phoenix saga through the X-Men
X-Men, the animated series.
We'll be covering it soon. Hopefully JP will be back with us soon. That is the dog collar jingling. Hi there. That's Rex. Right?
Yep.
Did I get the,
Rex.
okay, good. Just making sure I got the names right.
But it's spelled with a W.
Yeah.
Like car wrecks.
Yeah. That's sweet. And kind of strange. Is that how you got him in a car wreck?
No.
Oh.
Although the person I got him from is a bit of a human car wreck.
Oh, nice. Sweet. Anyway, so for
Yeah.
Smash and Grab Comics, this is Tyler.
This is the other one.
See ya.